everybody. Welcome to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. I hope you're having a lovely day today. I am sitting in my brand new home in Fort Sheridan, Illinois, Highwood, Illinois. I've got my dog snoring continually next to me. Something's going on with him, Chuck. I'm not sure what, but he just is snoring away, like sawing wood all day. I have to listen to this.
You've
It's
got a
insane.
dog's life.
It's a dog's, and he sleeps just constantly. He's not barking,
Yeah.
which is good, but he's snoring. And listen, everybody, you know this show. We are here to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. And I absolutely love bringing in amazing new guests that will impress you and teach you new things that are going to help you live the best lawyer life you can. And today is no different. Chuck is waiting in the wings. Hey, Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yeah, I'm
I've got
just
a hidden agenda too. I've got my grandfather was a lawyer, and my oldest daughter as an attorney with Sidley. So just
okay.
full
Yeah.
disclosure,
And did they ever put you on the cross and ask you too many questions?
they have done that. Yeah.
I have had a lawyer father, and I talk about him on the show. Actually, guys, if you're interested in hearing the interview with the late great Larry the lawyer Fretzin, episode 200, and you can hear
Cool.
me yap it up with my, at the time I think he was 87 years old at the time,
He's a
so
young
pretty
man.
cool, young
Yeah.
man, just a whippersnapper. All right, Chuck, we got to start. We got to start the show like we always love to do with the quote of the show. And this one I had to read twice for no other purpose than to A, understand it, and B, to make sure I didn't screw it up terribly when I did it with you. So here we go. It is a James Baldwin quote. A journey is called that because let me start that again. A journey is called that because you cannot know what you will discover on the journey, what you will do with what you find, or what you find will do to
You
you.
can do.
I
Yeah.
totally screwed that up. I didn't have a good flow.
You did that right. You
I
did
did it
that right.
okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sometimes give myself a hard time.
The last
Um,
part of that is really the key to it. You just don't realize what the journey's going to do to you sometimes.
yeah. I've had quite a few tragedies in my life, and people, should feel bad for me at the time. But what I found is that these tragedies, there's another side to it, and people don't
Yeah.
talk about it enough. And it's what did you learn, and how did it help develop you as a human? And people
Yeah.
that lose businesses, or people that have deaths in their family, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's never good, but it does
Yeah.
help us become stronger.
Oprah's got a good book on that. And the book title of the book is What Happened to You. She says we ask people the wrong question. We ask people what's wrong with you,
Mm,
and we should ask what happened to you,
mm.
because everyone's had things happen to them that impact how they deal with everything.
Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. Well, listen, man, welcome to the show, Chuck. And I'd love to have you just share a little bit about your background and letting people know what you've been up to. And then we'll dive into the deep end on some really important subjects.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, so you're going to tell us about you.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't the form of a
Yeah.
question, I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't register. Yeah. So I've been I started my career as a janitor in an NCR, which at the time was called the National Cash Register Company, office in Danville, Illinois. I was 17 years old, and I ended up spending 15 years there. Became a technician, then I became a sales guy, then I ran a branch.
Mm,
And it was a great experience on several levels. One is that I was with at the time, a company that had 95% market share of the point of sale business, and it went from 95% to 35%. And so I saw what a big company, how it can decline. I left there and started my own firm in 1976, selling word processing machines. I don't know if you know what a word processing machine is.
It's a step above a typewriter.
Yeah, and I did that with a partner, which is one of my other big lessons in life is be careful how you choose your partners,
Yeah.
because that thing lasted about 2 years and went up in smoke. Um, and long story short, ended up spending about 40 years in technology. My most successful gigs were with Dell Computer. They were a little company, about $300 million when I started with them in 1990. Had a great run there. That led me to be the VP of sales for Toshiba Information Systems. Sold a whole bunch of portable computers, about $350 million worth. and ran a regional office for them for a few years. Um, Chose to retire because I didn't want to move to California, and took a package from Toshiba. And um, on the flight back from Irvine, California to Chicago, I stopped in Vegas. It was just a layover, and a guy that worked for me at Dell just happened to call me at that moment. And he says, "I'm starting a new company," and my retirement lasted about 30 days, I think it was. And that company was headquartered in Dallas. We did e-commerce solutions, and we lasted about 9 months because we got the first 5 million from venture capitalists in the summer, and we got the first million in cash 3 weeks before 9/11. And so 9/11 brought that company to a dead stop. The VC said, "We're selling everything, shut her down." So I've had some interesting ups and downs. I think at that time I spent 2 months in retirement. Jumped on my motorcycle, took a long trip through the mid central U.S. and realized, for one thing, although I lost a ton of money, that I was alive. And I don't know if you recall those times, 9/11, after 9/11, but the country was probably pulled together more than we ever have in the many, many years, and certainly we need to do that now.
Yeah.
So I started up in January 2002. I started my business brokerage practice, and I was with a company called the Business Broker Network. You were independent contractors using that as a tool to do marketing, and also joined Midwest Business Brokers and Intermediaries, MBBI.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm a former president of MBBI. Great organization, a lot of education. All the transaction professionals in the Chicago area at the time. Now, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, and Michigan have chapters of MBBI. So that's kind of my quick background.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're the CEO or the president of CEO 15 Ventures, which is,
Yeah.
what do you do there?
So I do I do one thing. I help business owners and CEOs grow their businesses and grow their ability to treat the business as an asset, so that at the time they're ready to move on to their next chapter, they've got a valuable asset to fund that move.
Yeah. And so I think you may appreciate and understand the struggles of the legal community because you do work with lawyers, and how challenging it is for them to get organized and build something that is, sellable and that can allow them to have the autonomy of, retiring or not retiring or handing it off or whatever it is they want to do. Why do you feel or understand that lawyers struggle with that to the degree that you see?
I think the biggest issue is actually the same issue most founders and businesses have, and that is it's their heart and soul in the business. And they don't necessarily treat it like a saleable business. They treat it like a tool they use to leverage their talents. And the attorneys are, to some degree, no different than accountants and even doctors that have a private practice. Very much similar to a doctor with a private practice in that they don't view their firm as a business. Excuse me, sorry about that. So I think the biggest challenge an attorney has is to recognize they can build their practice into a saleable practice.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't give my father grief at the time, but he, knew he was going to retire at 65 to the day. And I think 6 months before he did it, he found a couple of knuckleheads that he was going to hand this business off to that were completely, inept and untrustworthy and all those things. And so that business, the lack of the business acumen and understanding about how to, convert a solo practice into, dollars and how to continue to get paid out on that, or make it a saleable event, I think really was beyond his. I mean, he knew he was the smartest guy in the room in the league from the legal standpoint, but I
Yeah.
think on the business side, he had no training. So it was, minimal.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it is a challenge. And I've seen in a lot of law firms where they stick, and size has a lot to do with it, of course. Um, but I believe that there's a book I'm reading right now called Wisdom at Work, and it's about how to learn from what we call the elders in the world, and how the elders need to learn from the young people in the world. And too often that we have this antiquated idea of what someone as they get older will do. And many of the older people in this world actually support that because they do what you expect them to do. They go off to Florida. But there's a growing number of people that are capable of working into their 80s and 90s and could contribute a great deal. And in the case of an attorney that as they get older, I think having the right mix of people around them strategically to make that firm an asset is the key to their success.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, how do people start to get prepared for the next chapter? And again, if you're in your 30s or 40s listening to this and you're going, well, I've got such a long runway, I don't need to think about it. Well, there are people that move to their next chapter in their 40s and their 50s. It doesn't have
Absolutely.
to be 80 or 90. So
Absolutely.
what are some things we need to do to start getting prepared for that transition?
There are two big things. One is look at your business as a business, identify the drivers that will make that business grow. Okay, and I've got a tool to make that assessment.
Okay.
Or you can go to any valuation company. Essentially, you pay a little bit more money in a valuation because you're getting to the formal stage before you really need to. You need a preliminary evaluation of a business to say, this is where I'm at this starting point. If I put the business on the market right now, this is what approximately what you'd have it at. And what can I do to change that? And then the assessment we use compares where your drivers are at today against other people in your same space. So other attorney law firms that have gone through the same process. So that's the business side. And that's really an important side. The second piece is get your mind ready for what is the next chapter. And most of the attorneys particularly the M&A attorneys have been on this call, recognize that so many deals fall apart at the last minute, not because of the price or because of the terms. They fall apart because the seller, if it's an attorney, the attorney isn't really ready for that next chapter. As a matter of fact, they're quite scared of what the next thing's going to be. And they also recognize a bigger issue is their own identity. Who will they be when I'm not the chief lawyer in this firm? So dealing with those two things, your mental state and the business state, that's the key to long-term happiness, you might say.
Yeah. And let's take a step back on the business side, because I think the other issue that continually comes up on this show and that we have to acknowledge is there are so many law firms that are still practicing in an antiquated way. They've got lack of process, lack of systems, lack of talent. They haven't built a brand. There's all these factors that go into what makes not only a sellable business, but maybe even one that you can, hand off to people that are equity partners or that are coming up in the firm and they buy you out over time, or they allow you to stay and work and manage your book or whatever you want to do. But I think that's a big, yeah.
That's a good point, Steve. I think the starting point there is how many attorneys ask their clients why they are their clients.
I'd say not many. I know that was a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer anyway.
I'm just saying, I know it. I know the number. I know it's very low. And quite honestly, that's true of many businesses.
Yeah.
They just don't recognize that they need to understand why people buy from them or buy their services from them or their products, whatever. So one of the first things we do in an assessment is do a customer score. How does the customer rate you?
Mm.
and we go out and, interview a few customers. Because what we're trying to figure out is how you scale the business. And that's the other thing we look at. And what is the possible scalability of business? And most firms have an ideal client profile pretty clearly articulated. They knew who their clients should be. Many of them, however, don't know what their bandwidth is. And those two elements create an opportunity to either grow it or develop a short-term plan that says, I just really don't want, and I'm very optimistic, have been all my life, and that's why I'm 81 years old and still going strong. And I think you first have to answer the question, do I really want to retire at a certain point in time?
Yeah.
And do I have a clear idea of what that means? So
Yeah. I mean, I asked myself, look, I'm 54 and I have really very little. My wife is going to be wrapping up her tenure at school as a teacher, and she's going to get the full pension and everything in about 3.5 years. So I think my thought for myself is I love what I do so much. I love the lawyers I work with. I enjoy everything about my business that I mean, I don't know that I'll ever retire. Maybe I'll just slow down, or maybe there'll be an aspect or an element of my business that might be sellable, or maybe there's someone that wants to come in with me and sort of help me with the brand and eventually take it over. Of course, you got to find the right person, right? I don't know if you heard this before about partnerships, but I heard this a long time ago. No ship sinks quite like a partnership. So to your point,
1976, my ship sank pretty quick.
Yes, right. But I think that's just, God, you got to be careful.
Yeah. One of the tests you can give yourself pretty easily is to answer this question. Is there a magic number? If I walked in and it says, Steve, I'll buy your law firm for X numbers. And I said, let's just throw something out. I'll give you $10 million for your firm. Would that influence you one way or another?
That's a good question, just to put a number out there and see what it does to you inside. Like, does it make you, emboldened to stand your ground and go no? Or does it make you go, hell yeah? Where do I sign?
It's a hell yeah. It's a hell yeah that so many business owners, particularly today, there's a challenge between, is that how I want to raise my kid? Thinking that, hell yeah, there's someday in your very near future where you get that big dollar and you can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. It's the lottery view of life. More importantly, though, is ask yourself, am I doing what I really want to do? We had a speaker in my CEO group yesterday that he was amazing. And he had an exercise that people walk through called, what is your big question? What is the question that's in you that you've never addressed? And he goes to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. He looks at a kind of a series of assessments about your life to say, what does your life tell you about what you should be doing? And what is your big question? Einstein's big question was, can I ride a light wave? Steve Jobs was, do Americans really want to put PCs in their homes? So it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But we all have that question in us. We just haven't dug deep enough to find out what it is.
It's funny. I had that question years ago. I think I'd been in sales for, I'll just put a number out there and say, 10 years. And I didn't know, like, am I meant to be in sales? Am I meant to go out and sell, X, Y, Z? And I took an assessment and, career assessment. I kind of figured out, I had met a person who did it. And the two things that it said that I should do, one is sales and the second is teacher. And I never thought in a million years I would somehow fumble into basically teaching sales or teaching what I call sales-free selling. But I think it's so interesting that the people that can find that question or answer that question, and I know it's like, if you love what you do, you never work a day. Trust me, I love what I do and I work very hard every day.
I believe that.
But I don't loathe it, right? That's the problem. I think it's people that are grinding out hours or grinding out a job and they're just so unhappy.
I've got to do it attitude. It's like, whoa, you don't have to do anything you
Yeah.
shouldn't need to do. Um, and that's not, you also have to recognize there are a lot of people in this world that are in the condition they're in because of the circumstances they live in. And we're both pretty blessed guys with the circumstances we've been raised in and the opportunity we have.
Yeah.
So enough of
Well,
that lecture.
I think there's circumstances, and then I know that there's something you talk about around saboteurs. Like there's
Yeah.
people out there that are really not out there for your best interest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the saboteur assessment at Positive Intelligence, you go to there's a book called Positive Intelligence, and the book describes in detail all these pieces. It's written by Dr. Shirzad Shamin.
Holy mackerel.
Try to say
Okay.
that real fast. And Shirzad, who I know, um, he does a lot of video training just like you do around this topic of what goes on in our brains. And essentially, it's a left brain, right brain piece where our left brain stores our saboteurs. He's identified about 9 different saboteurs that we are affected by. His assessment that you take in 10, 15 minutes will identify how strong each of those saboteurs are in you. And I've given it to over 100 people, and I've never had anyone say that's wrong.
Yeah. A lot of the
Everyone say,
assessments out there
"Wow,
are
that
spot
does
on.
not." It's always that doesn't surprise me a bit.
Oh man.
And so my number one saboteur when I took it 4 years ago was that I'm a pleaser,
Mm.
and I'm a middle child. I come from a family that is no surprise, and people that don't know me know that's no surprise. Now, each of the saboteurs can be either good or bad. So pleasing people is not a bad thing, unless you're doing it in the wrong way. If you're doing it just to get something from someone, you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
The second one is high achiever, which when I give this to CEOs, hardly anyone isn't in that category pretty high. And then go clear down to the bottom is the last one on the list is a victim. And I've had a few people that fell in that category. And when you go back to Oprah's book about what happened to you, it explains why they feel that way. But just becoming aware of how strong those issues are in your brain helps you start developing ways of kind of taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, something that I dealt with years ago was just being a people pleaser, maybe, but I think it's like I wanted everyone to like me.
Yeah.
And if somebody didn't like me, I got like all wrapped up about it, all bent out of shape about it. I had to like go out of my way. Why don't you like me? What did I do? How do I fix? Like it just,
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, you know what? There's not everybody's for everybody. There's going to be, I'd like to think I'm for everybody, but I know I'm not. There's people out there that are probably, that think I'm too much of this or too much of that. And that's why you got to really spend time with your people.
Yeah.
Right?
We're raised in a conformist society. Schools try to get everyone to be similar. And our kids, and it's no different today than it was 70 years ago. Kids want to be liked in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And adults do too.
Yeah.
I've got 9 grandkids, and I've given my 9 grandkids several of my assessments. And one of the things I did for them early on, my oldest is 26, my youngest is 13. I wrote a book to them for them. And the purpose was to ensure they understood that each one of them, even though they're in the same family, each one of them are very unique. And that's true of every human being. We don't see every human being. We see the ones around us, right?
Yeah.
And I think getting attorneys to recognize and getting any business person to recognize what is your unique strength and how are you playing it out.
Really great. My father had a very unique way of bonding with his grandkids. He always had jelly beans in his pocket.
Yeah.
He just cut right to the chase, sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different method, but it did work.
Works.
It did work. He found something that worked. Listen, man, such great stuff, Chuck. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. And I think that what you're saying is resonating very well with me and with the folks listening. Let's move on, though, to our game-changing book of the show, The Fifth Discipline. Now, you've already covered 2 books. Now we got a third, The Fifth Discipline.
Oh, Lord, man, I got about 500 sitting right here.
Peter, what is it? Peter Senge?
Peter Senge. Yeah.
Senge. Okay.
Yeah. He co-wrote the book with, I'm not going to waste time. The reason I bring it up is that he provides an outline for any business, really. The 5 disciplines are around organizational learning. He does a great job of giving you a blueprint for this is how you build the right kind of business. So I encourage people to take a look at that. But yeah, I'm big on learning from others, and that's what books allow you to do.
Yeah. Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Well, as we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, of course, the Law Her podcast. Sonia, a shout out to you. What great work you do every single week, providing insights for women to get ahead in their journey. And of course, Rankings.io, continuing to crush it, putting on PIMCon again this coming year. They put on one of the best personal injury events of the year, and you guys are going to want to check out PIMCon and go. If you missed last year, you're not going to want to miss this year. Chris goes all out on this thing. It's really amazing the
Cool.
talent that he brings in, the speakers and the comedians and everybody he brings in to entertain. Hey, Chuck, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about CEO 15 Ventures, what you do. What's the best way for them to reach you?
You can reach me on an email at chuck@ceo15.us. You can reach me on my phone, of course. So 312-451-8802.
Yeah.
And you can also reach me through Vistage or an organization called Value Builder, which I also represent. Our website is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I've sort of been a
Of
fan
course,
of Vistage for
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
Is my,
okay.
I also go to, So.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, LinkedIn has become the bomb as it relates to people's information and profiles out online. And I was saying I'm a big fan of Vistage. I've been following Vistage before they were called Vistage, and what they call tech,
Yep.
And I love what they do, and I've tried to model myself after them a little bit because I just know how valuable it can be when peers get together and talk shop and hold each other accountable and all that. It's really game changing.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and let's keep in the loop.
We'll do that.
We'll do that. And hey, everybody, thank you for spending time today with Chuck and I on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We are here to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We will talk again soon.